What's going on, you guys? It's RC Lee. Just wanted to give you a really quick update on some of the trucks here. Every truck you see on this table, all four of these trucks have something wrong with them from recently bashing. So we'll start with the Big Rock. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have this on camera. I was out bashing and it was in some really thick sand. And I guess what happened was I ended up burning out the motor on this one, and so I took it all apart and I took all the bearings apart, and I was trying to replace the bearing. So that was the actual issue with it, was not the bearing on the end cap here, but the other end of the motor where the shaft comes out of the actual motor was completely destroyed. And so I tried to take that end cap off of the motor to fix it and replace it, but I could not get that motor end cap off. And what had happened was I took off the backside of it and took the rotor out, or the stator, I guess you could call it, the shaft out. And what had happened was, since the bearing failed, it ended up wearing down the magnetism, and shards of magnet pieces were all over the motor. So I don't know if that ended up destroying it or not. I contacted ARRMA. They said they would replace it. But I ended up getting rid of the motor because it was just destroyed, and the end cap was ruined with me trying to get it off. So that was not very easy to work on. I don't know if it overheated. It ended up coming to a complete stop, and I wasn't sure what was wrong with the truck at the time, and when I took it apart I realized it was the bearing in the motor. One more update on the Big Rock. I also wanted to let you guys know I decided to put in some spacer, another spacer up front. So this comes stock with the big one and a smaller one, and I put an additional smaller one on there. The back is really stiff. Like, the back, you have to push down pretty hard to touch, but the front used to go down really easy. So I put that extra spacer in there, and it seems to make it not bottom out as much, but it still can hit that front end, and I hate that front end hitting. As you can see here, it will kind of dig in and end up lifting up sand and throwing sand up into the gearing and into the, right there you can see there's actually, I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's some sand right there. And you know, I just don't want sand getting in those diffs and all those areas. So I want it to be up out of the sand as much as possible. Even when it lands, I don't want it to scoop dirt. And what happened was, when I was launching this thing, it was just, the front end was just completely bottoming, because I think because of the width, it's like the Traxxas Max. When you put the wide max kit on it, the amount of force it takes, because of the leverage, the arms are longer, so it takes less pressure to flex. So like the Granite 3S has shorter arms, so the amount of travel and torque that it takes to move that is much greater because it's a shorter fulcrum. The longer the fulcrum, the easier that's going to be, kind of like a torque wrench. The longer the torque wrench, the easier it is to get torque. So with this being so much wider, I think it's like 14.5 inches wide, it just seemed like it makes sense to be a little stiffer to me, because it was just, I could just literally push down and it would just touch the ground, kind of like it's doing now, but it takes a bit more force, and it kind of has a little bit of pushback before it actually hits. The Granite, I decided to cut the back of the body because it was getting pretty destroyed, and so what I did was I put a little bit of tape underneath there just to hold the cracking. My plan is to get some Gorilla Tape, because I really don't want to do the Shoe Goo thing, but if I get a new body for this one, I probably will Gorilla Tape it, but I don't really want to do the whole Shoe Goo thing. So my thought was, I cut this sort of in the shape of the way that my Kraton is shaped, and this is just stock, you know, this is how they shape it. So you can see there's a little tiny bit of cracking going on the backside. But overall, that body does pretty well. I do have this GoPro mount still on top, and it takes a lot of the abuse, so it may be kind of helping a little bit. But I just left that on there because I don't feel like taking it off. But so like I said, this kind of ironically now looks like the Kraton. And I think that it should be okay for a little bit longer for bashing, because I don't want to replace it yet if I'm just going to beat it up more. But it's kind of cool. It looks different in the back. It's completely open. But now I don't think it should get as much damage, and hopefully it'll actually land on these wheels here. That's the wheelie bar that I installed previously. Now, the wheelie bar down here is broken completely on this side, and this one is ready to snap. It's just basically plastic holding that on. In fact, that's not even gonna last very long. The problem is these edges are very sharp. Those edges now are really sharp. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna replace those. I bought the wheelie bar set from Arrma. So if you guys are interested, there's the part number 320613. And this is just gonna replace this wheelie bar. So that there's a new one with wheels that roll. Okay, so that takes care of the Big Rock and the Granite, the two 3S trucks. Starting with the front of this thing, we're getting a little bit of damage here to the body, as you can see. Everything's been doing pretty good, other than recently I took it out and I couldn't figure out why the front was moving. It was really loose. And what I realized was, after bashing it more and more, that one of these links here was actually broken, the plastic. Now, I'm not sure if you can tell, and I'll try and get a picture of this while holding the camera, but one of the links here is broken. And basically it's the plastic end piece that's broken. It's supposed to be on this side here. That plastic piece that snaps on has cracked. So basically I'll show you on here. If you can see this piece here where my finger is, there's like a piece of plastic that connects to this nut. That's the same way that all 8 of these links work. The 4 lower ones, and then there's 4 upper ones that sit inside here. And so the upper one, the plastic piece broke where it mounts to the screw. So I need to get that part. And then what happened was, I think when that was loose, I kept bashing and I ended up snapping. There's these metal, I'm gonna lift this up so we can get some more light in here. There's these metal sway bar links that come down to this composite plastic link. And what happened was, once these pieces were no longer supporting these push rod, or these, once these links were no longer supporting the frame, it was able to move. And then while it was doing that, I guess I jumped it too many times and didn't realize that it was already weakened. And so this sway bar link actually broke. And it just broke right at the metal. So it just broke right there. So I need to replace that piece. This one here is bent. As you can see, it's kind of hitting that spring there. I could probably bend that one back, but I need to get this piece fixed. So the LMT is down. So far, the housing has held up well. Haven't had any issues on the housings cracking or breaking or anything like that. And I've launched it pretty hard. In fact, I launched it so hard one time that it landed on the wheelie bar back here and it broke the plastic here, here, and here. So it pretty much broke that out, and I just kind of snapped it all back together, but the webbing in there is broken. Other than that, that's pretty much it. I mean, some scuffs, some dings here and there, but also the battery strap ended up breaking, so I used these little twist ties and these kind of straps I just threw in here, leftover Velcro that I had. But other than that, it's actually held up quite well. I mean, that plastic link end breaking, I should have fixed it and addressed it before I kept bashing it, but I didn't, so then I ended up breaking the sway bar link, because that was kind of the only thing holding it in place from moving so much. So that wasn't good. I'll be surprised if I didn't maybe bend any of my shock links, shock rod ends as well. That's the LMT. Okay, onto the Kraton. I know everybody's wondering what's wrong with the Kraton. Since that last outing, I definitely destroyed the diffs. I don't know if it's gonna be the front diff, or if it's the center diff, or if it's the rear diff that I blew out. Some people are saying that they had the same thing happen to them, and it ended up being that the screws backed out of the housing, and then the gears started stripping, and that's what ruined all the plastic and everything inside and was making that clicking noise. So who knows exactly what's wrong with it. I'm gonna take this thing apart, but I just wanted to give you guys an update on all the trucks. I've been really busy with work lately, so I haven't had time to make as many videos as I would want. But stay tuned, because we're gonna have some fresh new videos coming out, and even some new trucks. I have 2 more 3S trucks that I haven't even opened out of the box yet. I'm just looking for the right time to kind of take those out and and have some fun with them. Also, the Granite 3S has the steel spur gear in it. That was $32, a lot more money than I wanted to spend, but after buying a couple spur gears and burning through those, what I realized was, yes, they're cheap to replace, they're easy enough to fix, but at the same time, when you go out to go drive your truck and you end up burning through a spur gear and you can't even finish the pack on it, that's really annoying. You know, and spending only $5 a spur gear isn't a big deal, but the fact that you can't run it anymore is kind of silly. So I just got tired of fixing it and not being able to actually drive it, because this is one of my favorite bashers and I want it to just be bulletproof. I want it to be as tough as possible. I also don't care if I break things on it, but I don't want to break all of my trucks because I don't like having them all not working. So that being said, this one has the steel spur gear in it. It works great. It sounds a lot louder now. It sounds like my Granite, or like my Creighton. It sounds a lot more metallic, but it seems to be holding up really well so far. I'll let you guys know how that goes. So I'll be doing all these repairs. I can't find the parts yet for the Losi LMT. Let me know if you guys have seen parts in stock anywhere. I can't find any parts for the LMT, at least online. So not sure if they just aren't out yet or what's going on, but that being said, thanks for watching and stay tuned.